Hey, why don't you hang out with me? I've got to tend to some plants and some weeds and lay in some of my drip irrigation and get that at least the beginnings of it set up. So stay tuned. Hello, welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. Got to spend some time in the garden today because this is our future food crop, and I've really got to spend a lot of focus. We just came to the end of a really severe bad thunderstorm. It lasted all day long. Filled my pond up a little bit, so that set me back a couple of weeks on trying to get that pond cleaned out and scoop all the silt out. But it did wonders for the garden, and it softened the soil, deep saturated the soil to make weed pulling a lot easier. So I'm going to take advantage of that soggy ground, pull weeds, and then my plants are a little bit yellowish, so they're starving for some nutrients. So we're going to give them some potassium and other minerals, and I'm also going to feed them some fish emulsion to get them fed. Yeah, plants need to be fed periodically. Let's get this done. Yeah, I'm going to be applying this dry compound. It's for vegetable plants. It's a 5-4-6 mixture. It has nitrogen, potash, and phosphates in it. And these are the minerals that plants absolutely need to take up from the roots to help them with plant health. And it'll make them fruit a lot better and also grow a little bit better leaves, because they need the leaves for that photosynthesis from the sun to be able to energize its little machine on creating food for you. And this is what it looks like. It's just brown granules. So I'm going to be spreading that, just a little bit of that around each plant. Now for my tomatoes especially, I'm going to use this 5-10-10 solution, which is 5% nitrogen, 10% phosphate, and 10% potash. For for my tomatoes. Okay, we have more rain coming in, so the rain is just going to naturally water all that in. But normally I turn up the soil a little bit and turn it over. So I might do that with some of the plants. But I've got to put some plants, I've got to move some plants from the greenhouse out. Let's see. Now notice I staggered. I had 2 containers of carrots and 3 containers of mature tomatoes. Now I started the carrots from seed and I started the tomato from seed in the greenhouse. So they've grown so big in the greenhouse, it's time to move them out here. But I'm also want to illustrate the possibility of doing container gardening. And I want to tell you guys, when you plant your tomatoes, put them around carrots. You can plant carrots in the deep bucket. I've had really great success at planting carrots in deep buckets. So, yeah, the carrot tops are going to be a natural pest repellent to those pests that like to attack your tomatoes. So if you do, you stagger them and put your tomatoes right around your carrots, you shouldn't have any problems. I've done this in the past and I didn't have any problems with my tomatoes. So this whole middle section right here, I've got reserved to just do containers. I got put containers in here. And we're going to try some other container crops. It's still early enough in the planting season where I can get those started and get those in here. And then that way you guys can, who live in an urban area that you don't have much of a garden space, I'm going to show you how feasible and practical it is to do container gardens just in what little spot that you have available, and show you how much food you can grow in that short spot. So yeah, just keep coming back and follow us throughout the year, and we'll do the harvest. I'll weigh all the produce and we'll show you how much we've generated just out of this little section. Here's something I haven't shown you guys for a while. It's the potato bed. I just laid some potatoes on top of the soil underneath that rice straw, and now it's poked its way through and I'm growing potatoes. And now it's time to figure out the drip irrigation. I've got all this line. I've got about 1,000 foot of line that I picked up from an estate cleanup a few years back, and that's one of the advantages of getting invited to do these estate cleanups. What is an estate cleanup? Well, I'll try to leave a card up here for you to click on a series of estate cleanups, and I titled that series under treasure hunting series. But I get stuff for free. I get an invitation to go help somebody clean up stuff, and I get a bunch of stuff for free, and I only take stuff that I can use for the homestead. So I ended up with like 1,000 foot of this line. I already gave some of it to my beekeeping mentor, Ken Mulestein. He took it home and put it on his farm. And I have some I've been using here. Like all my raised beds have it lined around the whole raised beds, and my melon patch or the squash patch has the drip irrigation in it. The rest of the line I'm going to go ahead and install in the rest of the garden. So let's get that started. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and spread the drip line. Let's go around up the edge first on the outside of the fence, so I have some drip line for these plants I want to plant out there. And then we'll go ahead and lay it in on each row of the corn crop. Plus, I need to add in enough for future rows of the corn crop. Now, in here, on this blank area that the corn crop will eventually expand to, I'm going to be planting watermelon, so that I have plenty of room to expand and grow right here. So this will not be an empty space in the garden this year. Then I'll go ahead and plant it through the bush beans, and then also through the cantaloupe row, and then thread it in through my raised beds. And make sure my tomatoes and potatoes, Swiss chard and everything is covered, as well as these others. And now I need to make sure that the asparagus bed is going to be well covered. You notice the asparagus has sprouted. And then down through my, oh God, this weeded area, I got to get it weeded. That is the raspberries that are growing over there, and then you can see the grapes growing over there, so they'll be well irrigated. And then that line will eventually be tied in with the line that actually goes around the yard and terminates over here by the rototiller for all the raised beds, so everything will be irrigated. While I'm out here, I'm going to go ahead and feed the little birdies. Here we go. That's one of my entrances into the county fair. This little featurette was got grand champion at the county fair. I made that out of pallets and recycled material and an old metal model car as a bird feeder. I gave the bird seed to the chickens so they won't be so bored. They are having the time. This broke off here, so I have to cut it completely off. But it's okay, we got new sprinklers and a tool to punch in here and add new sprinklers. Okay, this is the end of a 300-foot long line of drip irrigation, and there's pretty good pressure coming out of the end of that, so it looks like I've got plenty of pressure going through. A lot of my little heads are squirting. Some of them I have to go through and clean out. This is a new one I just put in. I gotta somehow anchor this where it'll stick up. That's going to take some coaxing to get the water line in the right area where all those things are pointing up. Now, in spots where I have sprinklers, little sprayers, and I don't want them there, I can remove those. I bought a bunch of plugs. These are called dummy plugs. You just break one off and stick it in the hole and it doesn't squirt. And then the other ones that screw in to those tan pieces, I've got some of those. And then I bought a bunch of these, which you just punch those right in with it. You use a special tool to punch in. This is the tool you use to, that's a really sharp end piece right there. You punch in a hole into the pipe and you just press that right in through the hole. And then you can adjust this to your spray. It opens and closes, so you can adjust the amount of spray you want on your area. So it's drip irrigation for irrigating just the part of the garden I want to irrigate, so each plant will get its water. Right now I have it set up for this side of the garden, and I'll set the other side of the garden up next. And then also do the entire soaker system around the yard. I think I only need 2 of them. I think there's enough water pressure to be able to only use 2 of them. And I may combine them together. We'll see how much water pressure I get if I can do the whole thing all together. Now, when I did my garden over at Acorn Acres, I had a 50-foot by 100-foot garden. And I ran 4... what are those sprinklers that go back and forth, oscillating sprinklers? And I ran it off of this one valve. This is a battery operated timer. I can time it to go off every other day and water the garden early in the morning for about an hour so it gets water daily. And then I've got this T on there where I can actually run both sides, both halves on, or I can just turn the valve off and run one half at a time. I just need to make sure I get freshly charged batteries in here, and they'll last me for a whole season. This thing is awesome. It's hands off in case I forget to water the garden. And yeah, so it's going to get irrigated. The corn's going to get irrigated. Everything's going to get its water, and this is going to help me big time. Well, that concludes this episode on getting the garden finished, moving stuff out from the greenhouse, putting containers out in an area where I can have containers so I can demonstrate to you guys container gardening and see how well it does, so you guys can do a container gardening on your little patio, or no matter where you live. Even if you live in an RV, you can have a little container garden around your RV and take it with you if you have to go. But that will work out well. And doing the irrigation plus doing the feeding of the plants. Been really busy today, but it's worth it. I get to spend the time in the garden, and then the next task is just to make sure what little patches of weeds I have to finish getting out. And then also I'll be working on my raspberry bed and getting that. I gotta figure out something better to do with that raspberry bed, because it's just spreading. I gotta dig trenches on both sides of it and put down barriers to keep those things from the roots from spreading out and popping up canes everywhere. I just want the raspberries to be in that one row. Gotta get the weeds out of there, get a weed barrier down, get some more wood shavings and put that down to cover it. And besides, it looks better. I think it looks better than black plastic. Anyway, I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. This is Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. We're a small homestead tucked high in the Cascade Ranges of the Pacific Northwest. Hey, you can do my channel a really big favor just simply by clicking that thumbs up button. That it helps YouTube promote our channel. Also, clicking that share button and sharing our videos on your social media platforms really helps promote the channel as well. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell icon. That'll alert you to new videos as I upload them. Also, check out the video links I have down below. Some of you might be very interested in the content in those video links. It's how you can find cheap property at auctions. Really cheap. I mean, really cheap. And there's a lot of updated information down there too. So check those out. We'll see you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.